Somebody said, "Wow, you look great," and I thought, well, these are just my working clothes. What? This thing? I clean up really good once or twice a year. It's a struggle, but that's the things we do for our art. My name is David Gordon, and I love standing here and talking with you in this room because it lets me share some of my enthusiasms about this wonderful festival that I've been involved with. I've actually been involved with the Bach Festival for more than a third of its existence. And I'm one of the few performers still with the festival who have served under 3 music directors now. I'm really proud of the longevity that I have around this festival because I think this is a really good organization. I think it exists for a lot of wonderful reasons. And I found out in the last 12 months a lot more good stuff about it. And that's what leads us to tonight's concert. And I want to tell you about my journey over the last 12 months, my journey of research, and my journey of uncovering more about the handful of people that created this festival and made it possible. I have a couple of housekeeping announcements before we do that. I want to remind you about a new Carmel tradition, which is now in its 4th year, and that's our Art of Music art raffle. It's taking place in the Marjorie Evans Gallery, which is in the upper patio of Sunset Center, right near the wonderful boutique that is managed by Marcia Stearns of Bookmark Music. This art raffle contains more than 125 miniature artworks inspired by the natural beauty of our region and by the color and excitement of the Carmel Bach Festival itself. You can view the show every day from 10 o'clock onward and from noon onward on Sundays. You can buy raffle tickets through the 28th of July. You buy a ticket, you put it in the box under the artwork that you want to have a chance to win. I've done it, and it's paid off for me. You too can be a winner. You do not need to be present to win. The drawing will be made on July the 30th. It's a great exhibit to visit. The exhibit itself is a work of art. I also want to thank AMP 27. This is Access Monterey Peninsula, Channel 27, Community Access Television. They make their facilities available to community members, nonprofits, civic organizations, and they are here, as they were last year, videotaping all the free events that happen in this room. So we are broadcasting right now, streaming live on the internet to every person in the entire world. No pressure, just react gently. And these videos are then archived on the AMP 27 site and can be viewed again and again and again, at least by me. The great thing for me, really, is that in the past couple of weeks, AMP has been broadcasting last year's lectures, and for the first time in my entire life, people have been coming up to me and saying, "I saw you on TV." I may have been talking about the Brandenburg Concertos, but darn it, I was on TV. Another thing I want to mention, because she's here in the room, and that is my dear wife, Dene. This is a banner year for the festival in many ways, and one of the banner events is the banners. For many years, beautiful historical reproduction banners were made for our mission concert by my good friend Nancy Morrow. Nancy's no longer with us, but her banners are. And you'll see banners all around the festival, all around the venues, and all of these banners have been renovated and restored by my wife Dene and her team of volunteers. And the wonderful thing that you'll see is that there's a brand new banner, which is right over the stairway to the upper lobby. From the lower lobby to the upper lobby, it's 5 by 7. It's a quilted replica of the festival program book. My wife Dene pieced it together. Our dear friend Joan Hughes from Pacific Grove did the quilting. Her license plate is PG Quilter. And then Dene put what she calls the bling on it, all the decorations and the jewels. It was a thrill to be to watch this. I wasn't part of it, but I watched it come about. The banners and the heraldry are part of the tradition of this festival, and I'm so glad that my family's part of that too. In 2006, we started a series of narrated concerts on Tuesday nights. This was something that my buddy Bruno Weil and I had been dreaming up for several years. We started thinking about it when we were in exile from Sunset Center in 2001 and 2002 when the reconstruction was going on. Bruno wanted to create a concert where, as he put it, each individual audience member could have their own aha experience, that something would dawn for them. They'd get some new piece of enlightenment or something new about the music. So we called this series the Aha series. I wasn't that crazy about the title, but Bruno was. It was his word. And so for 5 years, we called it the Aha series. In 2006, we devoted the entire concert to Mozart because that was a Mozart year. 2007 was Bach. 2008 was Haydn. 2009 was the concerto, and we depicted the history of concerto. And 2010, Bruno Weil's last year as music director, we devoted our concert to Beethoven. In these concerts, we put together a musical program. Some of them I programmed myself. A couple of them were programmed by Bruno. A couple we did together. And I wrote a story based on Mozart's letters, Haydn's journals, Beethoven's writing or people writing to him. It was a fascinating historical study. And we continued this program last year with an English concert. There was not as much narration, but it was a wildly varied kind of and crazy evening of English music. And now this year is our 7th concert. And this year we celebrate the history of this music festival. Suddenly, instead of researching Haydn's journals that he kept when he was in London in 1790, instead of researching Mozart's letters that he wrote in some stagecoach between Vienna and Prague in 1782, suddenly I was doing research about stuff that happened right here to an organization that I work for. There's a certain canon of basic information that appears about every 5 years in our program book. The 50th anniversary, the 55th anniversary. There was a big thing 5 years ago for the 70th anniversary. And we keep getting a certain amount of information, some of which I've discovered is not precisely true. Dates and places. I'm a detective. I'm a research hound. I'm like a Jack Russell Terrier going after a bone down in a squirrel hole. And when I have the feeling that there's something more out there for me to know, I go after it. And fortunately, research means are so much broader today than they were. First of all, it starts with your computer screen and an internet hookup. So this year, we decided to salute the 75th anniversary of this Bach festival. And in our concert tonight, of course, you cannot do justice to all the details. But in our concert tonight, we focus on the handful of people that established the festival, and then the string of 3 music directors leading up to our 4th music director, who is Paul Goodwin, who's on the podium tonight. And what I wanted to do in these next few minutes is to share with you, bless you, to share with you some more details than I can fit into my narration. Keep in mind that after 12 months of research, the script that I'm going to read tonight is about 2,200 words. I could write you a 2,200-word essay in a couple of hours. But that is all the room there is. Otherwise, it turns into a lecture concert, which this is not supposed to be. This is supposed to be a really good concert, even if you don't speak English and can't understand anything I'm saying. So there's all kinds of information that is there. And frankly, it's going to be in a book that Jenna and I are envisioning. Because there's such a story here. I was telling Richard Leslie a few minutes ago that, and I hadn't used this phrase before, but my heart has been ripped right open by what I've learned about the people who came to Carmel in the 1920s and started what became the Carmel Bach Festival, the Carmel Music Society, which is a booking organization, the Monterey Symphony. Let's just start with those 3 things. That's where we're headed. So what I'd like to do is just tell a little bit of a narrative story, tell a tale. about several people, and I'll start in consecutive order, chronological order, based on date of birth. We start in the little town of Visalia, California, in 1884. Visalia at that time was a bustling ranching and agricultural town. It's over toward the eastern side of the Central Valley in the general direction of Sequoia National Park from us. There lived a photographer named Stephen W. Watrous. He had immigrated to California from New England, and somewhere along the way he met Minnie Jeffords. Minnie was born in Timbuktu, Nevada. It's one of my favorite early facts in this story. And in 1884, he had set up a photo studio in Visalia. I actually own a photo that he took of the front of the block where his photo studio is located. In 1884, they had a little girl, and her name was Hazel, Hazel Watrous. This is a very important name to us. Stephen and Minnie split up for some reason. I don't know the details. Maybe I'll learn it somewhere along the line. Stephen moved west and ended up having a photo studio in Capitola, California, which is just up the road from us toward Santa Cruz. Minnie and her daughter, little Hazel, moved to the Bay Area. They lived in San Jose and Oakland. And I'm going to leave them there just for a minute, and I'm going to go to Callahan, California, which is in Siskiyou County, up toward the Sierra Nevada. And there, on February the 11th, 1885, 1 year after Hazel was born Ethel Adele Dene, who was known all her adult life as Dene, D-E-N-E. Dene's father was a wealthy rancher, banker, and merchant in Callahan, and Dene had the benefit of family money, which Hazel did not. Dene got piano lessons and all sorts of artistic training early on and was sent to the San Francisco Conservatory to study piano, studied music elsewhere as well. She became a pianist with a real interest in the avant-garde. Dene presented the first all-contemporary piano recitals on the West Coast, professional concerts on the West Coast. Meanwhile, Hazel graduates in 1903 from the Normal School in San Jose. I had to do some research. I'd heard about normal schools, and I had to figure out what that was really about. It comes from the term école normale, or standardized school. A normal school was established in most states to train school teachers. And this normal school in San Jose, on the location of what is now San Jose State University, was the first campus in the California State University system. Hazel graduated from this normal school in 1903 at the age of 19, and she went to work as a school teacher in the East Bay. On the side, she had become an artist, and on the side she designed covers for music publications. She designed theatrical scenery and costumes. She painted and had studied with several very reputable painters, and she also was a budding architect. For a while, she was the art department director. She was director of art studies of the Alameda County Schools. In 1922, in the gallery of a mutual friend in San Francisco, Dene and Hazel met. They were in their late 30s. Within a few months, they had rented an apartment together at 700 Hayes Street in San Francisco, where they lived 2 years. This is a place called the Fisk Mansion. It's still there today. It was once a large private mansion, and it was converted into a Victorian mansion. It was converted into apartments. Dene and Hazel lived there. Then they decided to seek their fortune in New York. This is about 1924. They're on their way to New York, and they decide to come down to little sleepy Carmel to spend a few weeks out of the city before they head east. Basically what happened is they never left. They did go to New York for a while. They went to New York for 6 or 8 months. How do I know they were settling down here? Because before they left for New York, Hazel registered to vote in Monterey County and gave a Carmel address. That indicates to me that they were intending to come back here after they went to New York. They came back in 25 and bought property from a gentleman named Devendorf, who's another very important person here in Carmel. He was a real estate developer. They bought a lot on Dolores Street, just north of 4th, and there Hazel designed her first house. It is called Harmony House, and it is still there, and my friends Don and Carol Hilburn live in Harmony House. And I say designed her first house because Hazel went on to design a house for her mother, Minnie, who was with them at that time. And Hazel then went on to design 34 more houses in Carmel. She was very avant-garde. She drew on the arts and crafts style and went beyond it. Several of her houses had red roofs. I wonder if that would pass the muster of the commission today in Carmel. While they're here now, and they're putting down roots here in Carmel, they are, of course, meeting all sorts of interesting people. And so it is, in 1926, the house is newly finished. They're gathering in the house, and they're talking about how they can improve the musical scene here in Carmel. And they form something called the Carmel Music Society. And this is an organization that is still in existence and still presenting outstanding classical artists in Sunset Center. I'm going to be able to say on Friday night when I lecture, we have a concert on Friday night that includes the music of Brahms, Stravinsky, and Bach. In the early 30s, Igor Stravinsky gave a piano recital upstairs in Sunset Center. That is the surprising caliber of the great artists who performed here under the auspices of the Carmel Music Society. The Carmel Music Society began its first season in 1927. In 1928, Hazel and Dene formed Dene Management to produce the concert series here and also to produce a bigger concert series in San Jose. The San Jose concert series was much more lucrative and helped them underwrite their activities here in Carmel. One of the first seasons of the Carmel Music Society featured a quartet, a string quartet, the cellist for which was a lovely man from Amsterdam named Michel Peña. I say he was a lovely man, we never met, but everyone who met him said he was a very charming fellow. He was also a very dynamic conductor. Dene and Hazel had the idea of inviting the quartet into a residency here in Carmel, which they did in the summer of 1932. Not only did Dene and Hazel bring the quartet here for the summer, they arranged for the quartet to rehearse in their gallery, which their first gallery, and they sold tickets to the rehearsals. So Michel Peña had an idea. He said, you know, wouldn't it be great if while the quartet is here, we arranged for a group of local townspeople to form a little orchestra, and we could rehearse our concertos, because each member of the quartet wanted to play concerto repertoire. We could rehearse our concertos and put on concerts for the community. This little orchestra, which was led by Michel Peña in 1932 and 1933, met in the gallery. People bought tickets to hear them rehearse. Michel Peña conducted, and each of the members of the quartet had a chance to play a couple of concertos. In 1934, Michel Peña left. He was in very high demand as a soloist. This is a fellow who, in the early 20s, had been chosen by Leopold Stokowski to be principal cello of the Philadelphia Orchestra. I'm a Philly boy, and anybody who Stokowski picked is all right in my book. Then he was invited to San Francisco by Pierre Monteux to be principal cellist of the San Francisco Symphony. He left the symphony world in order to pursue his love of chamber music, and nonetheless he was involved in this little conducting project down here. In 1934, he had other things to do and other fish to fry. But in 1934, they officially established the Monterey Peninsula Orchestra as an entity, and they hired to conduct it in Michel Peña's place. They hired a young American composer named Ernst Bacon. Ernst Bacon was born in Chicago in 1898. He was a composer. and a pianist. And at the time he showed up here in 1934, at the age of 36, he had already won the Pulitzer Prize for music. This was an eminent bunch of people. Every time I find out something more about these people, I am more impressed by who they were. Ernst Bacon was the conductor of the Monterey Peninsula Orchestra in 1934, and it was now an orchestra in its own right. It performed on the series of the Carmel Music Society. And Ernst Bacon and Michel Peña and Dene and Hazel Watrous got together and decided to have, in 1935, a summer music series and music festival. The first subject, the first theme they picked for the music festival in 1935 was Bach, because it was the 250th anniversary of Bach's birth. They did not plan at that time, it is very clear from the documents I've read, they had no plans to make this an annual Bach festival. They wanted it to be an annual festival, and they were already looking forward to having a Mozart festival in 1936. Think how things would have gone for us if that had happened. Isn't it amazing? The newspaper reports all say they're already talking about next year's Mozart festival. Apparently, Bach just stuck. Bach was too good to give up. What is it about Bach? Bach is so difficult to perform. This festival tried to perform the B minor Mass 11 times before they were able to perform the entire work. Every year, starting in 1936, they started adding a couple of extra movements. And if you see how they added it, you can see they're waiting for the last movements they added were the most difficult ones. The Bach Choir of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, with which I'm associated, was formed in 1900 to sing the B minor Mass. It was basically a club that got together and rehearsed for 2 years and gave a performance of the B minor Mass. There's something about Bach that inspires people. There are Mozart festivals here and there, and Beethoven festivals here and there, and Handel festivals here and there. But I've sung with 8 or 10 organizations in the United States that call themselves Bach festivals and a couple of dozen others around the world. There's something about Bach's music that brings me here and you here too. So they decided after their first year that they would do a Bach festival, that it would be an ongoing Bach festival. The first year, 1935, was just 4 concerts: Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in the Mission. Ernst Bacon conducted Thursday, Friday, and Sunday, and a dynamic Italian conductor from Venice named Gastone Usigli, whose name will be very important to us, was listed as the guest conductor on Saturday night. That was the first Bach festival. 4 concerts, 4 brass serenades, one before each concert, just like tonight, and a lecture every day. All that was built in from the very beginning. From the very first concert of this festival, there was a pre-concert lecture. The early lectures took place at the gallery, at the Dene Watrous Gallery. The lectures were also held at the Pine Inn, where you could probably get a good cup of coffee, which would be nice as well. So that was 1935. Ernst Bacon had other fish to fry, and he does not enter into this picture anymore. We're grateful to him for conducting 3 of the 4 concerts in the first season. Then they made an interesting choice. In the Philadelphia area was a dynamic Russian violinist named Sasha Yakobinov. And they hired Sasha Yakobinov to conduct the 1936 Carmel Bach Festival, the second festival. The one night when he played a violin concerto, the festival orchestra was conducted by Bernard Callery. Bernard Callery was the local supervisor of something called the Federal Music Project, which is a subject of a huge book all by itself. It was part of the Works Progress Administration established under the New Deal, and money was put out to give musicians work as long as they played good music, which was seen to be edifying to a public in need of edification. in the mid-30s. So the second festival was conducted by by Sasha Yakobinov and Bernard Callery. Again, it was Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. We're now up to 5 days. The chorus and orchestra were completely amateur. It's important to know that until 1950 or 51, the only person at the Carmel Bach Festival who was paid was the conductor. Everybody else was doing it pro bono. They would bring in professional soloists from all across the country. They would pay their expenses and give them a place to stay. Same for all the other visiting musicians. Some professional musicians came down from the San Francisco Symphony, and they were given travel expenses, and they were billeted in a private home. Local hosts and hostesses vied to be the people who were hosting the vocal soloists. That was considered to be the most glamorous hosting job. Another interesting thing which I will mention tonight is that off and on during the early years of the festival, you look at the orchestra roster and there are no oboes. Whether or not there were oboes depended on who was around that summer and who was available to play. And you will hear, in one of our numbers tonight, you will hear what music sounds like by Johann Sebastian Bach, written for 2 oboe d'amore, but played on clarinets. The Sunday pattern, the Monday-Sunday pattern was established in 1936. The festival starts on Monday. Many of us old-timers remember what it was like to have the opening night on Monday and the final concert on Sunday afternoon. And I have friends who are here today who still come on Monday and end on Sunday just in memory of those old habits. This is true of every Carmel Bach festival until 1993. When Bruno Weil got here, his first year was 1992, he said, "How can you have an opening night on Monday?" So we began our opening night on Saturday, it ends on Friday, leading to all sorts of upheaval over the years about what to do with that extra weekend. In 1937, it was the third Carmel Bach Festival. Again, 5 days, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. Sunday is still in the mission. The conductor in 1937 was that fellow, that cellist from Amsterdam, Michel Peña. He apparently was a wonderful and dynamic person and probably one of the greatest musicians of this early bunch. The one night that he played a cello concerto, our old friend Sasha Yakobinov from Russia, who lived in Philadelphia, was back here to conduct for Michel Peña. It was this group of people, and all these guys knew each other from San Francisco, and that's where Dene and Hazel knew them. They were all part of the same music scene. Ernst Bacon, Sasha Yakobinov, Bernard Callery, Gastone Usigli, who's about to become the conductor again, and Michel Peña. They all knew each other. They were all part of the same circles, and what an incredible circle it was. In 1938, once again, Dene and Hazel hire a conductor. Keep in mind, there was no music director at this time. The festival was run by Hazel and Dene. They called themselves in the program managing directors of the Carmel Bach Festival. And the conductor was called the conductor. He was not the music director. They hired Gastone Usigli, who had put in a little appearance at the 1935 festival. In 1935, Gastone Usigli was not yet a naturalized American citizen. And there was a certain amount of pressure back then to hire American musicians. Well, he received his naturalization papers in 1936. David discovered online. I have actually a photocopy of his naturalization papers. It's phenomenal. He caught on here, Gastone Usigli. And he was the conductor from 1938 to 1949, which is the last time they used clarinets that I can find. And in 1950, Hazel Watrous was diagnosed with a terminal illness. At that point, Hazel and Dene realized that they needed to turn more power over to the conductor of the festival, and in 1950, they made Gastone Usili the music director of the festival. It was Usili who first helped to build the reputation of the festival and put it on the map. But still under Usili, it was Dean Dene's intention that this be a community music organization, that we bring in professionals to help out, but that is a community organization of community members making music for community members. In 1954, Hazel Watrous passed away, and the Summer Music Festival was dedicated to her. 1955 was Gastone Usili's last music festival. In March of 1956, he died suddenly of a heart attack. Dene had herself to choose the next music director because she knew now that she couldn't just hire a conductor. She had just recently heard a guest conductor at the San Francisco Symphony who really appealed to her. He was a very vivid and dynamic young Hungarian man named Sándor Salgó. She hired Sándor Salgó. He began here in 1956, dedicating the summer to Gastone Usili, performing the Mozart Requiem in his honor. And Sándor Salgó was the music director of this festival for 36 years. And he is the man who put it on the map. He lengthened it from 1 week to 3. He started performing complete works in the original languages. And for the first time, the festival was elevated to a professional corps. Within 2 years, his wife Priscilla became the choral director, and the following year they hired a 28-voice, all-professional festival chorale to sing along with the community chorus. What I find interesting is everything that happened up to this point, because now you get to this point and you're into the memory of probably a lot of people in this room and me. I did several seasons with Sándor Salgó. He's the conductor who brought me here. But what has interested me and touched my heart is, I feel like I have two hearts after working with this, is the dedication of these early people. These two women especially, the Carmel Music Society, the fledgling orchestra. I forgot to mention that when they built an art gallery to house Hazel's artwork and have little concerts in 1928, that was the first art gallery in Carmel. Not only the music stuff, but that too. They leased and remodeled the Golden Bough Theater and presented 18 contemporary plays in one season, most of which had the foreign ones had only recently been premiered in New York for the first time in English. They remodeled and renovated the little California First Theater over in Monterey in order to present melodramas. They were involved in everything. So tonight, when you look at the pictures of these two people, and I only have pictures of them later in their lives, when you look at the pictures of these two people, think upon them with gratitude. We owe them so much. They came to Carmel, envisioned what they wanted here, saw what could be, and they did that. And we are the beneficiaries of their genius. I've heard adjectives about them by people who knew them: formidable, extraordinary, powerful. I can only imagine what they must have been like, Hazel and Dene. I hope in the future to be able to present more to you about them, but tonight will give you a sense of where this organization has come from and who got us here. It's a heartwarming story, and I look forward to sharing it with you in a little while with music. Let's all enjoy it. Let's all remember these names and be very grateful that we are the beneficiaries of such wonderful, forward-thinking visionaries. Long may their legacy live. Thank you.